Happy Tuesday, everyone. It's so great to be with you again this week on the latest episode of Get on the Grid with Chessie Roberts. My guest tonight is our awesome panel, and a quick rundown on everybody for anybody who's a new listener. Sherry Cortland is an automatic writer, and she channels and shares information communicated by her guide groups. Shelley Wilson is an intuitive medium, Reiki master, and spiritual teacher who would love to assist you on your spiritual journey. Patricia Brooks is an interfaith, interspiritual minister and author of 2 books, God is in the Little Things, Messages from the Animals, and God is in the Little Things, Messages from the Golden Angels. Then we have Roberta Grimes. She's an attorney and afterlife expert, and she illuminates what for some can be a difficult life topic. Diane Collins, author of the book Do You Quantum Think, has created a system of thinking comprised of principles and practices that make it quick and easy for anyone to live in the wisdom of science and spirituality every day. And then there's me, Chessie Roberts. I'm a singer-songwriter, spiritual teacher, mindset mentor, meditation coach, author, minister, radio host, lecturer, and creator of Evolution of Self, Journey into Body, Mind, Spirit, Balance. Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to have you here. We're just going to pick right up where we left off at the last time. So if you got your thinking caps on, here's our first question, and I find it fascinating. How do you know you are truly awakened and hearing and listening to guidance and not your own human brain and your own spiritual mind? Roberta, can we start off with you?
I think we're talking about a difference that really isn't there. Our minds are part of eternal mind, and so the minds of the greatest beings are all part of that same essential energy force. And the question really is, if your ego gets in the way and starts chattering at you, then you're not listening to your own greater, higher self, and that's really the problem. And I'm not certain. The answer is going to be different for each person. But meditating, trying to learn and understand how to raise your own spiritual vibration would be really what you'd have to do. In my own case, I just have told my guides, I don't want to hear from you during the daytime. So I wake up in the morning and they've put stuff in my mind, and that works for me, but it may not work for everyone.
Thank you. Shelley, how do you feel about this?
Well, I definitely feel that a lot of it had to do with just trusting the information, because our humanness can come in, / our ego, and, it can really feel like, we're making this stuff up. But I think of a lot of it is just trust.
All right. That's good. Diane?
I would say when it's coming from spirit, higher self, divine providence, that there's no doubt. It's like you feel it very deeply from your inner core of your being, and you're not questioning it. If you're questioning it, then that gives you the clue. Is that am I, pontificating in my own mind about what I should do, or as referring to what Roberta said, it's a good idea if you're not sure to then go deeper into a meditative state, even as you go about your day, and ask for the answer, and it will come through. But it really has to do with certainty, like when it's absolutely yes to your own being, that's from spirit.
All right. Patricia?
What I believe, and I think I just want to make the distinction for a minute between our higher self and our angels or our guides, because I do feel that there's 2 different energies that are at work. So if I'm looking to differentiate between my higher self and or my ego, as the other members of the panel have mentioned, for me, what's come up very clear for me is that feeling that they're referring to. Is my thinking coming from a place of fear or lack? Am I thinking of doing something because I'm afraid if I don't, I will miss an opportunity, or something else bad may happen? Or am I feeling that I'm going to do something because it feels just so right and so true to me? And I think that that's the heart space that everyone speaks about, and that's our higher self, that's our spirit. So I go to that. I think that really is what Diane was also referring to, that just that knowing that it's right and true without any feeling of fear or lack entering into it.
Thank you. Sherry?
That is such a great question. And I think that everyone, especially when they're first starting out and connecting with spirit, always questions themselves and wonders, am I making this stuff up, or is this really coming from spirit? And one of the things that I tell people when they ask me is, take a look at the information that you're getting. Is it information that is going to help you move forward spiritually? Is it going to help others move forward spiritually? Then it's probably the real thing from spirit, and absolutely trust it. If you're getting lottery numbers and, for people, that's probably ego talking. So I think looking at the information that's coming through, and also I agree with everyone else, it's a matter of experience and trust as well.
Thank you. In my opinion, what I have used, my mother always told me, when in doubt, don't. So if you doubt the information that you're getting, especially if it's to move forward or something, wait. Give it a while. See how it resonates with you. And the other thing I think that several of the panel have already said, if it gives you joy, if it makes you feel really excited and good about a move or a change, then go ahead and do it, because that is your higher self. And your ego is not usually as uplifting and as helpful as your higher self. So you might want to take that into consideration too. Before we move on to the next question, does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? All right. This next question I find fascinating, and I just can hardly wait to hear what you have to say about it. I met a person that told me they were self-realized. What does that even mean, and how would you know something like that? And we're going to start with Sherry.
I do not know. I do not know how someone would know that they are self-realized, and I can't wait to hear what the rest of the panel has to say. I'm going to defer on this question.
All right. Patricia?
You know what? That's so fascinating, because this happened to me this morning. Not that I believe that I am self-realized. I believe what happens is that there's steps or stages. So what happens is that when we can consciously show up in response to the ego world that's around us. So when a situation happens and maybe we're triggered in some way, it's different to show up and just go down that old ego slide of, why is this happening to me? They're making me feel this way. I don't feel good about this because of X, Y, and Z. That way, or saying, I'm a spiritual being and I'm consciously choosing right now to look at this situation and make a different choice, show up differently. And I think that that's a huge shift in the way that we navigate this human existence as spiritual beings. And I think self-realization is a process. And I think it's really important just to shout out to everyone out there that's on that path, to be gentle to ourselves, because it's a process.
Thank you. Diane, I know you've got an opinion on this one, don't you?
I have a view. I don't deal with opinions.
Okay. There you go.
But yes, I do have a view on this, having been a student of many what is known as gurus. Guru is someone who takes, who actually connects their energy to you so that you're taken from the darkness into the light. But this is often, what is a guru is often referred to as a self-realized being. That means someone who has mastered their state and who is wholly identified with what we could call divine nature, divine self. But I think it's more than that. So here's the paradox. If someone is self-realized, they usually don't go around telling people that and that's really because you just wouldn't do that, okay? So you wouldn't go around saying, hey, you know what, I'm a guru, and this is how they say in the teachings of that tradition, that if someone is an authentic guru, that is, they have been granted in some way, and I would say it has to do with destiny too, and, their karma dharma in this lifetime, that they have the ability to ignite the spiritual energy, the kundalini, in another. And they don't go around saying, I'm the guru. So it's the same thing as saying, I'm self-realized. Well, the other part of the question, so they just wouldn't do it. That's all that is my view on it. But that it really means that you are fully in the experience of being God.
All right. Shelley, do you have a view?
Well, I love what everyone else has said, and I definitely agree with what Diane has said, because the people that have reached are self-realized, have reached that self-actualization, they wouldn't announce it. So to me, the people that do probably still have work to do. And, I definitely feel that regardless, even at that state, we all have something to learn and to grow from.
All right. Roberta?
Well, I come from a purely Western tradition. In sort of the sphere in which I've been studying, the term self is not a positive word. What we're trying to do is to get beyond the ego and begin to get in touch with our greater selves, with our true selves. This is a very temporary, time that we have on Earth, and I would agree with Diane. If someone says it, they probably aren't it, because even from an Eastern viewpoint, the people, you don't have to say it if you have it, and if you say it, it suggests that you're still too ego involved, and you probably don't have it. So my instinct would be to say, if that person truly feels that he or she is, then stop saying it and start living it, because that's what this is all about. It's not about an individual's ego and an individual's advancement. It's about the advancement of all of humanity, and that only happens when our egos get out of the way.
Thank you. My opinion my view, I'm going to have to use that word. I like that better. My view of this particular question resonates with everything everyone has said. And one of the things, I'm going to quote Carolyn Meese here. She says the universe doesn't show off. It doesn't have to. And in my view, if you are self-realized, if you have reached that guru state, as Diane was discussing, if you have come from the darkness into the light, you don't need to show off either. So that's kind of my take on that. Sherry, do you have anything you'd like to add at this point?
Well, I love what everybody said, and I'm just wondering, do you know when you become self-realized? Do you know, is that something that your conscious mind knows, or is it just a state of being? Everything that everybody brought up is just so fascinating, and this is definitely something to think more about and look into.
All right. Okay, we ready for the next question? It is.
Yeah.
Why me? Why now? How do I discover my purpose for waking up? And I think this kind of hits the nail on the head for the entire show. Let's go backwards. Roberta, you're up.
Well, I think this is a great question, and I'm asked it a lot when I speak and on my radio program. I think that we are all being tapped on the shoulder, and everybody is being reached in different ways. What seems commonly to happen is that people have an unusual experience, as I did, or in the last few days, several people who are very dry, sober folks have told me that they suddenly became psychic, and it freaked them out. So we're all being reached. But I think that when you find what your purpose is, and there's no hurry about it because your purpose is trying to find you, just be open to the possibilities. I always just say yes automatically to everything I'm asked to do and figure it's probably part of what my guides are telling me to do. But just be open, and when you find your purpose, or rather when it finds you, it'll resonate. and it'll be exciting. It'll be the most fun thing you've ever done in your life. That's been true for me, but it's true, I think, for everybody on this panel and everybody who's doing this work.
Thank you. Shelley?
Well, we do ask those questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And, to me, I believe that our purpose is to have a human life experience in whatever manner that feels right to us. The primary thing is to love, to have joy, to have happiness. And along with that, though, we're going to have challenges. So I think that if we can see everything from a higher soul perspective and, recognize that every experience is part of our human life experience and just enjoy it rather than thinking it's some big, grandiose purpose, just be.
All right. Diane?
Can you read the question again?
I can. Let me call it up here. Why me? Why now? How do I discover my purpose for waking up?
Mm-hmm. I want to give something very practical, but I want to say this. The why me, why now, that's a very interesting way that this was phrased by this individual, because the purpose has different dimensions. It's multidimensional. So there is a purpose where we take part in the overall, you could say, universal evolution of whatever is going on, in the entire cosmos. To take it in a little bit, we have a purpose, why now, based in the era, the time that we're born into. So we know this is a new, great, transformational, transitional time for humanity, where what's evolving now is evolution of consciousness, which is why people have all these questions going on. So we have a part in that. And then you take it to another level and you say, well, I'm on this earth and I have a practical, daily, worldly life. And so my soul incarnated to do what? And this is where the clues, as I call them, there are clues to your purpose, because the purpose, like nature, expresses itself in infinite ways. We have infinite ways that we express our purpose in every area of life. And this is the good news, is that when you look at the clues, nature, everything that happens in nature happens in patterns of relationship. So if you look at the patterns throughout your life, and I like my favorite question that I use in Do You Quantum Think is, what do people come to you for? Because, and people say, oh, they come to me for advice. Well, that's, everybody says that, and it's not refined enough to answer it that way. But if you look at what people come to you for, whether you were 5 years old, 10 years old, 25 or 50 years old, that other people sense in us something unique about us that is so natural to us and comes with such ease that we don't even think it's anything, but they will come to us for that. For example, people always come to me to ask them to, write something. And for me, writing was, I thought, doesn't everyone? And it isn't that easy for some people. So I'm just picking something very specific by way of illustration. But a very practical advice on this from me is to look at these patterns. What are you mostly interested in? What kind of conversations are you drawn toward? And when you start to get very specific about the answers to those questions, then it will all come together like a beautiful puzzle, and you'll see this moving mosaic that is your life, and you'll know what's next for you in expressing your purpose at this time in the context of what's going on in the larger scheme of our world.
Thank you, Diane. Patricia.
Diane, I absolutely love your answer, and I love your answer because it really gives tangible tools or steps to use, because, it can't always be about the feeling, because then what people say to me is, well, I don't know how I feel, or I don't understand the feeling. So I really like the process that you just explained. I'm going to, integrate that into my own life. So thank you. for that.
My pleasure.
Yeah, no, I think that was really a really great way of expressing it. Just to kind of add to that, though, I think that I agree 100%. There's the larger, highest, greatest good purpose of why we choose to come here, but then we also have our soul's evolution. And I think for me, it always comes back to that word choice. So why me? Why now? Why not? Why not? Like we consciously have chosen to incarnate for the evolution of our soul and for the part in the highest and greatest good. And I think that as long as we acknowledge that, as long as we understand where our truth really lies in our spiritual essence, having this human experience, and it can look, it doesn't have to, everybody's not the Dalai Lama and everybody's not going to solve world peace. It can look like whatever is our soul's choice for the evolution of our soul at this point. So it can be any life at any time, knowing that it's the soul's conscious choice being made. And so I agree with everyone, and I agree, I believe it might have been Sherry, I'm not sure, that said, or Shelley, just to show up and also enjoy it. I think that that's key.
Thank you. Sherry?
Well, this is such a great question, and I love the answers and agree with everything that everybody has already said. But as far as why me and why now, my thought is that we come into any incarnation with a plan of action, and there are triggers or windows of opportunity that are built into our lives so that we can achieve the goals that we set up for ourselves. Now, sometimes we recognize these windows when they come up, sometimes we miss them, and then others come down the road. So the why now is relative to what happens to be going on in your life right now. If you're ready, you're going to go through one of those windows. If you're not, you're going to wait for the next one. The why me? Well, because we're here with goals, and there are things that we want to achieve for the evolution of our soul. And as far as discovering our purpose is concerned, Diane, I feel like you just were one of my guides and just expounding on exactly what they talked about earlier this week. As far as discovering our purpose is concerned, the best thing to do, according to my guides, is to look at what you're already interested in. What are we interested in? What calls to our soul? And explore the things that we love and the things that we're pulled towards, because they create a pathway to what our purpose is or what our goals are for this incarnation. As I think it was Diane said, it doesn't have to be hard. It can be easy. And if we find those things that we love and that we're good at, those are clues to what our purpose is. And as far as what Patricia said, I loved what you said, Patricia. Why not? Why not?
Thank you. My view on this particular question, and I do this with my students and clients all the time, why me? Well, why not you? Why now? Well, why not now? When's a better time? And it's because of everything you all have already said. We're here for a reason. And how do we discover that? Just like Sherry just finished saying, what are you already doing that gives you joy? What makes your heart smile? What lifts your soul? That's where your purpose lies. That's the direction. And if you head in that direction, you can't go wrong. Thank you, ladies. All right, our next question. Sometimes as people are talking to me, I see images flash through my head, sometimes very clear, sometimes blurred, and they make no sense to me. A few times, if I feel the urge or am led to want them to stop, I'll share what I'm seeing with people. What and why does this happen? Let's start with Sherry.
That's clairvoyance, isn't it? Isn't that someone who is clairvoyant and is seeing things? And
Yes.
That's how they're getting those messages from Spirit? I mean, that's what my gut is telling me. I could be dead wrong, but I think that those are messages from Spirit. And me, if that was happening to me, I get the audio is what I get more so than I get pictures. But if I was getting those pictures, I would be writing every single one of them down and then looking at them and trying to piece together what is this message that is coming to me. And the more this person works with this and writes it down and analyzes these, I think that the clearer those pictures are going to become. And I don't think that it hurts either just to ask Spirit or to ask the universe, hey, what do these pictures mean? What is the message that you're trying to get across to me? And that's where I would start with that, and I'm anxious to see what the rest of the panel has to say.
All right. Patricia?
I agree that it's energy, energy, spirit. I think it's really all the same. I think it's energy. I don't know if it's specific messages to us all the time, or maybe just more of that opening to our own spiritual truth. So as we become, go back to that word self-realized, or we're really showing up in our spiritual truth and power each day, that things just are opening up, that we are coming more in touch with our truth, and everybody has those abilities. So are those images all the time that are messages for us, or is it just that we are more open, and so we're seeing more of the energy around us? I know that some people have said that we see 5% of what's there, and Diane, you might, from a scientific perspective, maybe clarify that, but there's 95% of stuff we don't see. So I don't know if it's all messages. I like to think everything is a message all the time, but I don't know if it's all messages, but I absolutely believe that it is more of that realization of our truth, and then our natural abilities are just starting to open up.
Thank you, Patricia. Diane, would you please follow that up?
Yeah, I think that what Patricia is saying about the opening is very important, that when you start to see things, that indicates that you have, let's say, a heightened awareness that you're even having them, is the first thing to acknowledge yourself for, that opening is happening. And then I think a very important aspect of what we're all talking about here is what I call mastering the natural faculties of mind, because the very important thing is discernment. Because when you were reading the question, I was thinking, well, as Sherry said, that could be clairvoyance. Is it clairvoyance for the other person or for yourself? I also thought it could be, because I know that once you have these openings and the way the mind, one aspect of the way the mind works is that it freely associates. So it could have opened up just a connection, and you're freely associating, and it really doesn't mean anything. So discernment is really vital to living consciously today, and that means really becoming adept and in conscious relationship with these faculties of mind, intent, intuition, subtle energy, resonance, meditation states, so that you can discern for yourself. The most important thing is to be able to discern for yourself when that happens. And if it is clairvoyance, then you're getting a message that, hey, this is how my intuitive faculty is working, and let me pay more attention to this. Let me put some intent on it so that I can actually master what these things mean.
Thank you, Diane. Shelley, what's your view of this question?
Well, immediately when I was hearing it and then listening to Sherry's response, yes, it is clairvoyance. And, the first thing that I'm picking up is that person is opening up that spiritual gift, that psychic gift. And the thing is at first it can seem very freaky because they don't know what's going on, but if it comes in as blips and blurbs and things like that, the more that they can acknowledge that they're picking up information, and as Patricia said, that it's energy, of course, it's coming in, and that's how their sense is receiving it. So I feel, acknowledge it. They may not need to analyze it, but as Sherry said, write it down, see what's coming through. That's going to help to heighten that awareness even more, and it will become something that they can use rather than, kind of like a muscle, how we work it and develop it, rather than, feeling like it's a hindrance. When it happens infrequently, it can be something that happens more frequently, and they can use it as they're guided to do so.
All right. Thank you very much. Roberta.
Chessie, first, I agree. What everybody has said has been wonderful. I'm just sort of going down to a very practical, what do I do about this if it's happening to me? As I heard the question, this is something that I'll be talking to somebody, and I'll be getting pictures in my mind, and I don't know what they mean. Well, that was the question, right?
Yes.
Well, it seems to me that it's just possible that this is how this person's psychic ability is being awakened. And I think what I would do would be to take people I trust, a couple of very good friends, one at a time, talk to them, tell them, I'm having this thing happen, talk to them, get the pictures, and ask them if the pictures resonate with them. Because if you do that, you'll begin to see whether that's in fact what's happening. You're developing psychic abilities, which will be very useful once you develop them. But like any other muscle, as I think someone said, this is when you've really got to work. So this is at least a way to rule in or rule out whether that's what's happening. I don't know why it is, but there is more and more people who are just have never thought about becoming psychic or being psychic are becoming really psychic. It's a strange phenomenon. It must be associated with the elevation of consciousness on the planet. I'm resisting it tremendously, and therefore, as I say, they only will do it at night, and then I wake up in the morning and know what they said. But it's happening to regular people, and they're very confused by it. So I would just say, in a case like this, have your friends help you figure out what those pictures mean, because I have a hunch the friends will be able to tell you.
Thank you. In my paradigm, this is how I read people. The first couple times it happened, yes, it was freaky. I will give you that. I will not deny it, because I didn't know what it was either. But what happens as someone's talking to me about an incident in their life, sometimes it's like a little movie running in my head kind of behind them. And sometimes it's a past life of theirs. Sometimes that's related to the incident that they're talking about. Sometimes it is a message from the other side that I'm picking up because they're so intent on what it is they're telling me that they are tuned out, but I'm tuned in. And it's sort of like my shortwave way to help people when I do intuitive readings. And I have learned, like everyone has said, to trust my own higher self, to trust my own intuition. I had this happen not too long ago. A lady came to me, and I was giving her a Reiki treatment, and these pictures came into my head unbidden as she was speaking. And I got a very strong urge to tell her the baby doesn't matter. And I've used this a couple of times on other shows. And it freaked me out. How do you tell somebody something like that? But in my trusting of my higher self and my intuition and what the guides tell me, I told her, I'm told to tell you the baby doesn't matter. And she started crying, and it was that she had berated herself all of her life for having an abortion when she was a teenager, and she was feeling guilty about it. And the pictures that had come to me and the message that had come to me allowed her to forgive herself and let it go. So if this is what's happening, if you're getting clear information, I would say that's the message. If it's blurred or unreadable, let it go. Don't worry about it. But like Roberta said, ask the person afterwards about what you saw. And if it resonates with them, then the message was for you to give to them, and that's part of finding your way for your purpose in life. All right.
Very
Next
good.
question.
Can I just say something
Sure,
else
yeah.
about that? This is Diane, because I wanted to address something Roberta said. And that is, why people are, why is this opening up more? And first of all, everyone, and this is one of the, in a new quantum, quote, worldview, that we are all connected to infinite intelligence, to infinite mind. And so we're connected to everything, depending on what we tune into. And this is called the non-local mind field, to use a technical term from science. And so everyone is psychic. Everyone is intuitive. There's no one left out, to more or less degrees. Now, in the Eastern teachings, they call these, quote, powers, siddhis, S-I-D-D-H-I-S. That as you, and this, Roberta touched on this, that as the shift in consciousness happens, that these siddhis become awakened. And, of course, it's up to us to be, again, discerning and responsible about it. But it isn't that, some people have it and some people don't. Everyone has it. And we use it, albeit sometimes in an unaware, undistinguished as such. We use it all the time because our intuitive faculty is a way of life. So what's happening now is we're all becoming more aware of this, and this is what the fun of it is and the joy of it, to be able to recognize it and say, hey, and ask for the spirit guidance or see one of you on the matter, to really be able to distinguish it and get related to it in a meaningful way. But everyone has it, every single person born on this planet.
I really appreciate that. I love what everybody has said. So if you missed something or you are a little fuzzy, dear listener, please go back and listen to us again. And the more you listen, the more you work with it, the better sense it'll make, yeah? All right, our next question is, and I find this one interesting too, what are chakras and are they important? And I'd like to start with Roberta.
Well, I'm the last person to talk to about chakras, except that I know they work. My whole study has been of Western communications from dead people, quantum physics, research into consciousness, very, very Western stuff. But there is, in fact, a whole internal energy body, which we know, we who study this end of the pond, we who are studying from this end, know that we have internal energy bodies. I suspect strongly that they leave at death and go to the next level of reality. I suspect strongly that that's why things like acupuncture work, because they're working on that internal energy body. And I have been taught to use whatever the chakra is that's between and just above your eyes to send light to people, and that really, really works. I don't understand it at all, but that's my sum total of understanding of chakras. So let's have people who really know what they're talking about say more.
Okay, Roberta, thank you. And that's chakra number 6, everybody.
Okay. Okay, it works.
Shelley?
Yes, absolutely. Our chakras are the energy centers. And, we have 7 main chakras with lots of minor chakras, but we also have those that other people work with that are 8 and higher. I typically just work with the 7 main chakras that are in our physical body, and each one is associated to organs, to emotions. Each one has a respective color. And, tapping into working with those energy centers, keeping them cleared and balanced and healthy, and also paying attention to, areas where we may have blockages, they can manifest into physical form. So those people that may have issues with communication in their throat chakra, it can show up as thyroid issues, as well as many other, even in the cervical spine. So it's important to, as you tap into that, to acknowledge exactly what is the underlying issue. And as an individual who works with those energy centers, I'm an empath or clairsentient, and so I can feel as I connect to someone during a session, whether it's a Reiki session or a reading, I can pick up those energy centers and where they have blockages, and then, provide assistance, whether it's wearing those colors as clothing or eating those foods or working with crystals that are associated with those chakra centers can help to keep them cleared and balanced.
Thank you, Shelley. Diane?
Well, I love everything Shelley just said. I don't know what I could add to that other than that it's very important to realize that things, what the source, of course, source is divine source, but on an individuated level of our own being, that we can keep ourselves in a harmonious state, in a clear state, by dealing with what is more fundamental than the physical. And that, of course, is mind and energy. And so the chakras, it's important to have a relationship with it, just because of all the things Shelley just said, where you can see what's going on first in these energy centers, subtle energy centers, and you can work with it right there before anything has to become manifest. And I'll tell you something personally, that I had that throat chakra thing happen to me many, many years ago. I was much younger, and I did develop a thyroid issue because of it. And, you know, it did start with, I was married to my first husband at the time, where it wasn't his fault, but in that presence of that other person, meaning my husband, who I love still today, I'm remarried, but I held myself back. I wasn't expressing what I needed to express. And that developed as a thyroid, as an overactive thyroid, which of course I dealt with medically at the time, not knowing any different. But this is how it can help us today in health and healing, in our emotional state, and in the clarity and consciousness with which we wish to live for the greatest joy today, is to actually be attentive. That's an aspect of life, and that's a part of our being, that subtle energy.
Thank you, Diane. Patricia?
Yes. Well, I think the 7 body chakras have been covered. I think I'd like to talk just briefly about the 8th chakra, which is about 18 inches above our head. Some people refer to that almost as the soul star, or the place where our higher self resides. And I use the 8th chakra a lot when we talk about connection with spirit, connection with our higher self, receiving information or resonance. It's really, really important and really powerful to make the energetic connection visually through your mind, through meditation, but bring that connection about 18 inches above your head, your crown chakra, envision it as light, as whatever color resonates with you, and connect that through your crowns and the line through your whole body, through all your chakras, and bring that higher energy, that higher self, that knowledge, that connection into your energetic and physical body. So that, for me, that's a really powerful practice, and it makes just, add that into why your chakra is important, because it is also the connection to the divine.
Thank you. Sherry?
Yeah, I think that there's no doubt that everyone agrees chakras are energy centers. And as Shelley said, they're connected energetically to our organs, to our emotions and our bodies. And the bottom line is really to be healthy, to be healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, we need to have our chakras balanced. We need to have that energy flowing freely through our chakras. And we can accomplish this pretty easily through meditation and visualization. And I'm going to defer back to Shelley and see if Shelley will talk a little bit more about this, because I use 2 of her chakra meditations in my workshops. And I know that just by visualizing where the chakra is located and visualizing the color that's associated with it and visualizing the energy flowing freely, we can take steps to clear our chakras of blockages and to balance them. And Shelley, what can you add to that? Because you're much more of an expert on this than I am.
I think you summed it up well, Sherry. And the main thing is, we can take a few minutes to do this. We can also just run through each of the chakra centers when we're in the shower. As we're cleaning our physical body, we can also clean our energetic body. So just taking a moment, and even if you visualize that you're washing and cleaning each of those chakras too, the main thing is the intention of the visualization.
Thank you. I think visualization is extremely important, especially here in this particular topic. Your chakras are little energy vortexes that run through the core of your body. And it is very important, just like everyone has said, to keep them in harmony and keep them flowing and cleaned out. And one of the things that I use with my clients and with myself, I made up a little poem, and I go by the color of the chakra, not necessarily where it's located, but if you can visualize it there as you say the little chant, it works wonderfully. Red chakra in my body. This is your base chakra, the one down by your tailbone. Red chakra in my body, spinning free and spinning bright. Fill my body full of red, healing energy and light. hold that just as long as you can, and when it starts to fade, move to the next chakra. Orange chakra in my body, spinning free and spinning bright. Fill my body full of orange, healing energy and light. And as you go through the chakras, there's orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and your crown chakra is white or violet. What happens is your body entrains. That means to move with the frequencies of these chakras, and everything is frequency and energy. And when you entrain with the healthy chakras and your body entrains with the healthy energy of these, you find that you become healthier. And that's just my little 2 cents there. And does anybody else have anything else they'd want to say?
I love that, Chessie. Those, what do you call those?
It's just a little
that way that you
poem.
say it. Anyway, it was gorgeous. Thank you.
It's just a little thing I do. Thank you. Feel free to use it anytime you like. All right, we're ready for our next question. The other night I had a dream. I was in a very dark space, and then I saw this flash of light like a beacon. I woke up in my mind, and I saw that beacon flash again against the dark of the night. What does that mean? And I'm going to start with Patricia on that one.
I think Patricia had to leave.
Oh, did she? I'm sorry. Sherry?
We talked about dreams on another panel session, and there were no people in the dream. It was just a flash of light, a beacon of light against darkness.
Yes, that's what the writer said.
Yeah, dream interpretation is not really my forte. I mean, if I was having this dream and I was having it repeatedly, I would feel like there was maybe an idea trying to come through, maybe a light bulb going off. I mean, what would the light be associated with? I think that's what I would kind of meditate on and look into.
All right, thank you. Diane?
I think it is, for the person to obviously go into themselves and really connect with what it is. But if in looking at it from the outside, I would say it's definitely divine awakening. It's in those white light experiences, I've had them myself. It's just another awakening. And so it's just to be, maybe because it's repetitive, that this individual might be wise to just acknowledge to his or herself that that's what it is, Thank you, Divine Source, for this continuous awakening, and show me what I need to know about it.
Thank you, Diane. That's lovely. I like that. Shelley, what's your view on this?
Well, as soon as I heard you asking the question, Chessie, the first thing that came up to me is consciousness, divine light, a being, and even the light at the end of the tunnel. And so, the main message that came through from that would be hope. And to me, this is just providing that individual with clarity, acknowledging their awakening, and just reminding them to, once again, to surrender anything that they're concerned about, any worries, care, concerns, and to trust in the process.
Thank you, ma'am. Roberta?
Well, in my experience, and I'm not a dream expert at all, there are a number of kinds of dreams. Many dreams, the kinds that fade by noon, are just our eternal minds trying to align what happened to us while we're out of body with what the brain can't interpret those things, so it gives us weird dreams. Then there are communication dreams, of course, from loved ones, and this conceivably could be that, although I tend to think not. I tend to sort of think it's what Diane suggested. I had 2 experiences of light when I was a child, and they came to me when I was sort of naive. And it may be that this person is resisting. It may be this is Spirit's attempt to get through to her with that kind of experience, and she's resisting it or he's resisting it, and therefore when our defenses are down during the night may be a better time for that experience to happen. But I think that's a beautiful thing. I would hope that it would be accepted as a beautiful and uplifting thing and not troubling at all.
Thank you. My advice to this particular writer would be to ask. Ask what it means. As you're getting ready to go to sleep, after you've had this dream, say the next night, you might say to guidance, thank you for this lovely dream you've given me. Thank you for this flash of light. Will you please explain this to me? And you may or may not have another dream. It might just be, like Roberta said, you're just processing something from the day. But then again, you might get a clearer message. So always, if you're in doubt about anything, ask your guidance, because believe me, they know. Okay, our next question is, during my wake-up phase, I kept hearing this same question over and over and over again. Perhaps one of you might know the reason/answer. Why did God send Jesus to the Middle East? Why not China, South America, Europe, or even North America? Roberta, have you got anything to say about that?
I think the reason is what Jesus told us in the Gospels. He came to the Jews because they were the world's first true monotheists, and he came to the people whose sort of religious pre-understanding would best resonate with what he had to tell them. He was trying to elevate their awareness of what was really going on to the next level. Unfortunately, the things he taught, and they're in the Gospels, are only really now being understood and spread in the world today, because what happened was that it was all packaged in Christianity based in the teachings of Paul, and that's kind of what most Christians are following. They're not following the Gospels. But I think it was just that the Jews were the best shot at simple monotheists who would be open to his message.
All right, thank you. Shelley?
Yeah, just to clarify, Chessie, this was a question that came into her awareness as she was waking up?
Yes, and she said during her wake-up
Okay, so
phase.
what I want to just offer with that is, spirit, God, consciousness, whatever term feels right to you, will use our frame of reference. So if this individual had religious beliefs and such, then Spirit's going to give them something comfortable that they can relate to, and in turn that waking up process will be more appealing and more comfortable to them.
Thank you. I agree with that too, as well as what Roberta said. Diane, what's your view on this particular question?
I'm trying to think of what is my view on this. I've heard so many things in the very esoteric teachings. This is where the portals are to higher consciousness, and it happens to be in that area. And I think there could be something to that, where we have to look at we're so earth-centric, but we're in such a greater vast goings-on in the cosmos, but at least even looking in our own galaxy. So there's, more to it than meets the eye. I think that also what came to me just intuitively as you were saying it is that where the oldest civilizations are, that it would make sense because this is where there would be, embedded beliefs, way of being, and so it was maybe you go to the source of where an awakening can take place. You go to the worst. Like I think of it, if we have people, just by metaphor, if there are people dying of hunger and hunger-related causes on the planet, and that is the very, talk about chakras, root chakra, that survival, that when we resolve that, then until we resolve that, can the whole planet actually ever be in fully enlightenment? I don't know the answer to that question. Looking at Jesus, where would God place Jesus, who would have such a significant impact on human culture in many different ways, and that we would take the person, take this self-realized figure to where the source of the, the problem is. Anyway, that's another interpretation. But we could make up anything.
Thank you, Diane. Sherry?
I have no idea how to answer this question. I mean, it's a very interesting question, and Shelley, Roberta, Diane, everything that they said makes complete sense to me. And we had a question earlier, the whole why me, why now scenario, and so I'm just going to add to that with the why there. Now we have the why there, and I mean, my guess is that God would place Jesus at the right place at the right time. For the most advantageous movement that he's trying to accomplish, politically, spiritually, maybe it was the right time for an awakening like that. Other than that, I really do not know how to answer that question. I mean, I would have to meditate on that, and I'd have to ask for some guidance on that. I mean, that's a very interesting thought. That's worthy of a lot of meditation time.
I completely agree, and I too don't really have a clear answer to that. I would have to meditate about that and think about that for quite some time before I came up with anything that might even be considered viable. I do believe that the Christ consciousness, which is coming into this awakening that we're all waking up to, has something to do with it. I just don't know what it is. I'm not a biblical scholar, and I don't try to pretend to be one. But I think everything happens for our highest good and best outcome, and this would just be another one of those happenings. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? Because we're coming to the end of the show, and
I'd like to just add something to that.
Please.
I've also heard from many different sources, including people who are Bible scholars and Christian ministers, that Jesus, in the years where people don't know where he was, I forget how many years it is because I'm not a scholar in this area, but that he went to study with the masters of the East, what we would call India, and that area, and that maybe it had to do with that, where if that was his experience, that it had to do with that proximity too, to that.
All right. Well, thank you, and I have read that too. Now that you bring it up, and I had forgotten about it. Well, I want to thank all of you for being with me today. This has been awesome. We still have a few questions left, but we'll talk about that later. I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us tonight on the show. If you'd like to send in a question or a topic that you'd like covered on the show, please send your question, suggestion, or request to me at Chessie at ChessieRoberts.com. You can find all of my information at ChessieRoberts.com. My music is at ArchersMeadow.com, and my book is on Amazon.com. Thank you for listening. Be sure to be here with me next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and I believe it's 2 p.m. Hawaii for Get on the Grid with Chessie Roberts. Have a great week, bright blessings, and good evening.